Figure out this
Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's no X. I changed on the board. So essentially,
Good morning, everyone. So now let's get our World Cup Monsieur to get rolling. Just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out. I know it's the middle of winter and for a lot of you it's a long drive, so we really appreciate it. It's the fourth summer we've had. Turnout just keeps getting better and better, so I think it's really wonderful that you guys all take some time out of your off season to hang out with us and talk about fundraising. A few basic housekeeping items. Bathrooms, if you go down the hall past the ROV on your right hand side, they're down there. We have coffee, pastries, soda and water. There's also some ice in one of those bar there. So, I think there's still pastries left. Usually we charge stuff. We're going to plan on lunch around noontime. Risk across the hall has something for just about everyone. If you have a food concern, allergy, vegan, whatever, we can find you something to eat, just let us know. There's Wi-Fi here. The network name and password is on the board back there. It is not what's on a small piece of paper over there, so space. And for those of you who are going to be live tweeting, we'll ask you to use the hashtag NEBRA Summit. So usually what we do to start is everybody goes around and just does a quick introduction. Since this is as much about everyone meeting each other as it is about us talking about bike racing. Before we do that, I want to do a couple of special introductions. Those of you who have met me, I'm JD Builder, I'm NEBRA's administrator. This Colin Reuter, who's over there in the corner. Colin's also the lead coach, whose offices are just 2 floors above us?
Yes.
2 floors above us. So, incredibly helpful sponsor of NEBRA. They get really the best registration system out there. So, Colin's a big part of that. Your board member, Dave Loyal, is here in the back. Outgoing board member, Laura Summers, here. Joe Rodriguez was here. Anybody else on the board? I think it's just our small group. For those of you who are members of clubs, we do have board elections. Voting is open now. It goes to the end of the day tomorrow. And also, Chuck Hodge from USA Cycling is the director of racing and events. Is that your new title now? Chief of racing. Chief of racing and events. So, and maiden name tag for Ross business.
He said he'll be here this afternoon.
Okay, so Ross Krause, the CEO of Bike Rich, will be stopping in this afternoon. So, Colin, we've already done you. So, Chris, why don't we start with you and do some quick introductions? Tell us your name, where you're from.
Sure. Chris Dunham, Northampton Cycling.
Tim Carey, Northampton Cycling Club. We run Druid Towns Bike Fest.
This one, yeah, we'll go back.
Sean Megan, officials assigner for NEBRA, along with my wife Lisa, take care of assigning all the officials for all races.
Craig Walton, Virtual Cycling Association. Sean didn't mention that. He helped with it.
Elisa Wiegand, NEBRA assigner for the other team, other half of the assigning team.
Alan Atwood, promoter of Norwalk Cycling Grand Prix.
Mike Norton, Cycling Racers, promoter of Quaddin, Hatfield, and Staff Speedway this year.
Dan Grosky, the Cycling House. Tyler. John Rodriguez.
Happy Don Marsky, I started the mountain bike race and I'm still pushing the Palmer Motorsports racetrack here in Palmer.
Details, president of the Cycling Club for the Red Outside Key, New Hampshire, co-promoter for Key Pumpkin Cross, Mount Bike Bowl, Mountain Bike Race, and also started New Hampshire last year, cycling team last year. So Trotter, Cycling Club, Key, New Hampshire.
Benjamin Kramer, Southern Bike Racing since 2006, part of the Lake Sunapee road race we had, the Concord Criterium Championships, the Gateway Hills Cyclocross.
Ben Jukowski, UMass Cycling Club president, probably the only collegiate person here, but yeah, just repping for them.
Mike Kessler, I'm also the collegiate from Harvard, and we'll think about your races.
Mitch Favreau, Mystic Velo Club, Mystic Velo Crit, and Northeast Masters Cycling Association, which is Connecticut Masters, Rhode Island Masters, the ball field weekend, and the Time Trial Championships.
Dan Fitzgibbons from Fellow, and we do partnerships.
Dave Gregorian, Indian Road Club, the Ken Herrick Memorial Race, Wachusett Fondo, and Cross.
Hey, morning. Rob Stiles, City Road Cycling Team. We do Belltown, Jordan, mountain bike race, Belltown cyclocross race. We started a summer mountain bike training series, the Belltown bike fights with Expo Wheelmen. I also am faculty advisor for the Coast Guard Academy collegiate cycling team, which is about 2 numbers strong, right?
Ben, we triple our collegiate representation.
Thank you, the balls.
Chuck Hodgins for having me here on top of the other stuff. I am the race director for PT National Championships, so we got quite a lot going. I also still help out a nonprofit with 6 charity rides, so I keep my hands in the race director side of things.
I'm Gary Kessler, I organize a Fremont stage race. I'm Paul Wisner, I'm with the community bike racing, but I actually live in New York, so I'm also here for the Capital Region Bike Club as well. I actually moved to the area, I moved out to North Carolina where I was head road director. That's my background.
I'm Laura Summers, I'm with the NEBRA Criterium, and also pretty on a developmental women's series in the spring. For 7 weeks.
Matt Stewart, president of the Greater Hartford Cycling Club. We're reviving Plainville this year, and I'm the Summers driver.
John Delco, Swanee Beagle Club, Bike Horse Racing, we promote the Laurel right there.
Ryan Wolf, CCAP, Behavior Grand Prix, Down Cyclocross, Great Benefit, amongst others.
Did well, program for NEBRA and executive director of CCAP. Anthony Locha, promoter with Massachusetts Gravel Race.
Katie Myers, Massachusetts.
And Bobby just wandered in that, so what you expect?
Official ASO.
Awesome. So this is one of the really nice things about it is we've got collegiate, we've got road, we've got gravel, we've got mountain bike, and we're really working on building a sense of community so we can all help make this the best region for cycling in the whole country. So just to give you a quick overview of what the region consists of. Last year we had 156 registered clubs in New England. Those are clubs that are registered with USA Cycling. We oversee about 2,300 licensees. That is road, track, cyclocross. We also take care of officials' licenses. We do a little bit with motor officials, UCI. We have a couple of UCI drivers. We had the UCI Pro Team in New England last year. New England had 139 sanctioned events last year. That covers everything from Fremont stage race, multi-day stage race, to single-day road race like Quabbin, to charity ride or just a kids fun ride, something like Bike Fest that the NCC puts on, which is just a couple of different route options up and down the valley. And so overseeing all that is one organization, is the New England Bicycle Racing Association. So we like to say that we are bicycle racing. A few more numbers about 2018. One of the things that we try and do each year is go over sort of an overview of how things went last year. If there was a theme to 2018, it was that the nationwide slowdown in registration and events caught up to New England. We've been fortunately fairly immune to declining event numbers and somewhat declining registration, but last year we really started to feel it. We had 41 road events last year, which was one less than we had in the year before. But our road rider days, which is one rider doing one event, counts as one rider day. So if you have 500 riders to quad in, that's 500. If you have a criteria where someone's doubling up, they only count one day for that. We were down 7% over last year with just under 12,000 rider days. Cyclocross, we took a more significant hit. We had 31 sanctioned events, which was down from 36 last year. We had 4 new races, including Ben's Gateway Hill Cyclocross, which was hugely successful. So thank you for stepping in. But we lost 9 total races, and we had 1 go from sanctioning to unsanctioned after over 25 years with USA Cycling. So that's something we're looking to correct for next year. Rider days in cyclocross, that's where we really saw the biggest downturn. We were down 22% with just, again, 11,500 rider days really. A lot of that can be attributed to the loss of those early season events. We had Sucker Brook, which went away, White Park. That was a whole weekend of racing that traditionally was super strong. Gateway picked up a lot of that slack, but those few events that we lost early in the season really kind of put us behind. And for the most part, we're seeing these sort of trends nationwide. That's really back what we see in the other regions. It's just that it has not affected us to this extent that it did in 2018.
Any more details on the cross riders? It's at Sucker Brook in White Park, so that's probably 1,000 riders.
Yeah, so those we lost.
KMC,
KMC lost about 500 rider days because they shifted to a single day UCI event. Fortunately for, I think for the whole health of the system, they also lowered their entry fees. They really are trying to reboot their event and rebuild it, which I think is really good for them in the long term. They'll be moving to Hartford next year, so they're going to get a better venue, a little more central, and I would expect their events to come back up. Yes?
Follow-on question to the move to non-sanctioned events. Do you know comparatively, like have we seen a commensurate uptick in non-sanctioned events, or?
They tend to be about the same. I will say that when West Hill went from sanctioned to unsanctioned, they lost almost 30% of the riders. They are now going up against cross race out in the Cape, the Really Rad Cross Festival. But I think the cross calendar has been pretty heavily saturated for the last couple of years, and we'll talk about in the next slide. We are really sort of past the peak of cyclocross, so that big participation bubble has really peaked and it's starting to come down the other side. So why don't we go to oops, the other way. So a little bit of an analysis. In that risk scenario where we were down 7%, one of the interesting things was road racers lost a larger chunk of their participant numbers, but criteriums tended to go up. So at one point in the year, we had some road races that had experienced significant losses, but our rider day total was dead even. So one of the things we're seeing is event quality matters. People are really choosing their events carefully. There's a lot of competition for people's attention beyond just the cycling scape. It's there's running races, there's triathlon, there's gravel events, there are multi-sport events. So the core participants are still there, but they're choosing to do a lot more variety of things, and they're not racing as often. One big bright spot up there in the orange box, overall, our USA Cycling license sales were actually up year over year. We're up about 100 licenses. So we're getting more people interested in participating. I think the future is going to show us that they're just not going to be racing as much.
Is that nationwide or down by region?
This is just for New England.
Just nationwide.
Nationwide license sales are going back up.
Okay.
We are seeing, to the credit of USA Cycling is doing a great job with marketing and really making some strides in welcoming new riders with the new basic membership. So I think you're going to see those numbers continue to go up, and as a participation number, those new riders are not going to be the traditional road racer who would race every weekend all year long. There's somebody who's going to race once a month, twice a month. Yes.
Do you have a breakouts of categories, or is that distribution the same for all categories? You know,
In terms of
like masters, juniors, women, men.
who's growing,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something that we're able to kind of break out.
Bike Ridge has a lot of data, but license sales data is the one thing I got.
I really feel the big guy about that.
So
So in participant days, you don't have the data.
So we don't have it broke. We just get, so what we get from USA Cycling is like a number of 300 riders from the event. They don't break it out in the actual categories.
I would say it's probably juniors. At least that's what perceived by.
Yeah.
That's a lot of.
Certainly in cyclocross, junior participation is way up. We're seeing some demographic, the same demographic shift you see in the world applies to cycling. So the population is getting older. For those of you who are doing masters events, there's no more masters 35s out there. They just don't exist. The masters 40 and 50 are huge. And now the masters 60 is growing astronomically. So we're starting to see that big baby boomer population move on. So you've seen a lot of events drop the 35 plus category and add 60 plus category.
Not too much growing, it's aging.
Yes. But we're seeing a lot of older athletes are starting to rediscover sport, and we're seeing a lot of new athletes. So Masters 4 or 5 categories are really popular. We see a lot of good traction with those.
Maybe I've got that real quick. Juniors, this is sort of close to end of year, 2018. Juniors up 10%. U23s, we have that one down 1%. Seniors are the regular sort of league level up just under 1%, and masters up 1.1%. Man, I gotta go to another column. Females up 1.5%, males up 2.1%.
So overall, USA Cycling tends to trend 15% women to 85% men, somewhere there.
Yeah, I've got that too somewhere. I'll have to dig that up.
Is that primarily due to one days or annuals?
This is memberships. This is
Oh, yeah. So
Is that on the USAC page?
It's not on the USC page. And this is the easiest spreadsheet I can get to. This is in November, so it's not year end.
yeah, one of the hardest things for us to track are one-day licenses because they generally don't generate a paper trail. We know that they are out there, but capturing them as a customer that we can then market to, follow up is really hard. We don't always get their email addresses. When someone's filling out a paper form, you're going to get something that's a scribble, so it's hard to get those numbers. So looking forward to 2019, our road calendar is actually looking pretty solid. We're getting started earlier this year than we have in the past couple of years, thanks to Matt and doing the new Plainville Frozen 4 series. We have not had a road training series in probably 2 or 3 years, so this is a really good opportunity for us to get some early success. You're going to run clinics, events with 8 at every single race, so that gives new riders an opportunity to try out racing, get a little bit of coaching, and really experience racing in a safe, controlled environment like the criteria. Laura's new movement series is going to be tracking participation, really emphasizing the 4s and 5s. So that beginner rider experience, you have 5 races, 6 races.
7.
7. All right. So, and again, it's a spring head.
Yes, the last one is super nice.
Yeah. So again, great way to kick off the season, really get people excited. We haven't had that sort of structure to the spring in quite a while. New England Crit Week, the big series of events is going to be moving a couple of weeks later in the year. They'll be moving into July, and Fitchburg will kick that weekend off, or that week of racing. That's going to fit in a little bit better with the national calendar, so we should see some bigger teams, maybe a little bit bigger exposure, some more prominence in the road series. For those of you who are still looking for dates, that does open up a couple of weekends at the end of June, either for competitive rides, non-competitive rides. We're also seeing Hilltowns is moving a little bit earlier in the year to kind of go with that flow of hard early season road races and then summer criterions moving into cross season. So the structure of the calendar is a little bit better. We uploaded a lot of the events to the NEBRA calendar last night. We'll be adding more as we get them confirmed. So we'll be pushing that schedule out to people. Cyclocross, as I mentioned, Cyclocross is going to come back this year. They were only away for a year because of school construction. So really prominent event that's going to be back on the calendar. I'm hoping that Ben brings back Gateway again. Yes. Yeah. So another really solid event coming out. KMC is continuing to rebuild their event. Moving to Hartford is going to help them a lot. Kinetic Series has been a huge bright spot in racing. Yes.
If the rumors are true, Holy Week is coming back.
Yes.
Has Paul confirmed that he's now one weekend after KMC?
He has not confirmed, so I wasn't going to.
It's been rumored for a while, so I guess it's still a rumor.
Spell that rumor, but
I mean, who knows? I think
there is a possibility that the Holy Week of Cyclocross will return, where we have KMC, Gloucester, Night Weasels,
right,
Midnight Ride, all sort of.
Yeah, but the key being the two biggest UCI races back to back to actually draw some out of towners.
Right. So that is
we haven't had that in a couple of years now, and it did definitely affect numbers for all events.
Yeah.
Is Hartford Riverside Park?
Yes. Cool. Yeah. So I think that'll be, we had the national championships there. I think Richard's uniquely positioned to sort of put on a big quality event there that sort of reminisces nationals. So I think they're going to do a really good job with it. So the Victoria Series, as always, is super strong. Bringing back Holy Week would make it even better. They do a good job at tying the whole narrative of the season together. And we also have a lot of smaller series, Connecticut Series, the Zaganotto Series. So that's one thing that's super healthy about New England versus some other regions. We have a multitude of series. You can take your cross as seriously as you want to, or you can just go and have fun. If you just want to race single speed and move forward, there's a series for you. If you want to be next Jeremy Powers, you can do the Victoria Series. On NEBRA's side, one of our big plans this year is we're going to be doing a lot of outreach to new riders, trying to get those people who are riding, maybe not necessarily racing, interested in trying something maybe a little bit more competitive. We'll have a little bit more on that next couple of slides. So, so I'm going to touch briefly on the state of NEBRA. Colin's going to have a little bit more in depth stuff in your presentation. Yes. More about structural changes.
Yes, correct. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So last year at the summit was hugely constructive for us. We really took a lot of feedback, walked away from the summit, sat down with the board, and really thought about what we wanted to do with the organization, how we could better serve our promoters and our community. If there was a single theme from the summit last year, it was communication and transparency. So we've really tried to boost our communication this year. We have turned our MailChimp volume up pretty significantly. We're mailing about every 2 weeks to over 3,000 subscribers. So that mailing list started almost immediately after the summit last year. We're now posting monthly board minutes. So for those of you interested in the nuances of what's going on behind the scenes, those minutes are getting posted roughly within a week after the board meeting happens. So that was something we've never been doing before. So there's some transparency there where people can kind of see what we're discussing and where we're planning. We eliminated our social media coordinator position that we had last year. That was a little bit of it's a big budget item for us. So we have decided to roll that into the administrator job. So I'm now doing the email newsletters, and tweeting, Instagramming. So we still continue to have a presence out there, but it helped our budget a little bit, and I think helped us refocus on better communicating to our members. Grants, one of the things that NEBRA hasn't really done a great job in is communicating the type of grants and the availability of grants. For the third year in a row, we funded 100% of the grant requests we got. So basically, anyone who came to us and asked for funding was awarded funding. This year, we also upped the total amount that we gave out by about 30%. So that's a great number. It's still not as much as we would like. We have more set aside, sort of allocated to helping promoters. We've got 2 different plans to sort of make that happen next year. And also in the grants, we created a new officials education grant. We're going to be helping fund the officials, Northeast officials in March. And we also awarded a grant to Krista Hahn, who traveled out and got his Category A certification from USA Cycling. So we're starting to help our officials increase their continuing education, move up the ladder in their categories, just like the riders do. So next up, touch a little bit on outreach. One of the things NEBRA really wants to do is start going out and talking to non-bike racers. Last year we set up at the D2R2 in Deerfield, which is one of the largest dirt road routes. There's an amazing number of bike racers who do that event. You see Riverside jerseys, CCB jerseys, NABC, collegiate jerseys. So getting out there, talking to those people, figuring out why they may not race as much, seeing if there's other events we could interest them in, and finding new people who are interested in becoming bike racers. It's going to be a big part of NEBRA in 2019. We'll be coming out to Nebraska Pizza and setting up our booth up there just to talk to folks. We're going to be going to the Trimania Expo and talking to triathletes and see if there's folks who are interested in draft legal triathlon and maybe they want to get a little bit better at their bike handling skills. So they want to take some clinics, maybe they want to do an early season training race. So we'll be basically expanding our outreach, trying to get more new bike racers in so we can start filling in those participation gaps. With our grant program, we are resetting the moto grant sunset provision. With our grants, all of our grants have what we call a sunset clause. So our grants are designed to be seed money where we help you out to try a new experience like hiring a moto official or putting on a clinic. And we'll pay for that for the first year. We'll give you some matching funds the next year with the expectation that eventually the promoter will assume that cost. That lets us free up that grant money to go on to other events. The moto grant is probably one of the ones we get the most requests for. And we have a lot of events who have sort of aged out of the grant process. This year, the cost for officials mileage reimbursement is finally caught back up to the standard IRS deduction, which is great for our officials, but it's going to be a big jump for our promoters. So they're going to see a 25% increase in mileage fees. So we are resetting all of the grants, so any promoter is eligible for full funding this year. So if you have motos at your event and you want some help covering those costs, we're now making everybody eligible again. So that's something that I think we're able to free up a little bit of money, kind of ease that transition to the new fee schedule for the officials. We're also going to be creating a grant schedule. So rather than just letting people kind of apply for grants whenever they want. We're going to set up 3 periods during the year: a spring, summer, and fall grant. And we'll have some applications. And it's not so much trying to regulate the way we give out grants, but we want to schedule press releases around them. We want to really remind everyone throughout the year that we have this money available, we have support options for you, we really want to help you out. So the grant schedule, I think, will help bring a lot of them to. Yes.
Would you rethink about just giving it to one grant per promoter or one grant per race?
So,
if you put 2 big races, you put 2 big races on, but you only get promoters for one of those races.
right. So one of the challenges we have is we only have so much grant money, and we want to try and get it to multiple events. So we've stuck with our sort of 1 grant per year as a way to make sure that, you know, the events at the end of the year, there's still grant money for them. So it's certainly something that we can consider. You know, the challenge we've had, if you historically look at our grants, they tend to go to a very small group of promoters, and we're trying to really expand that so that we're supporting more events throughout the year.
Because not only did your increase, the officials also got a $20 increase per whatever their position is, judge, chief rep,
$10. $10 for most and $20 for chief.
and then you have the top promoters, which are all officials, so it's more than 25% increase that we're gonna get the other position.
We get 25% of the mileage and then the extra additional fees. You know, we can certainly bring that to the board and think about expanding that. The challenge is we want to make sure that we're serving the widest possible contingency that we can. So, let's skip over this slide here. The last thing up here is a proposal that we're going to be sending out in the next week over the promoters email group. We have the option of streamlining the surcharge collection process. Right now, NEBRA charges a $1 per rider surcharge on competitive events for road and cyclocross. Traditionally, what has happened is when we get the post-event form, we then invoice the promoter. So after your paperwork is all done, another week or 2 goes by, then you get the invoice from NEBRA. Working with Bike Ridge, we have the option to move that surcharge collection into the registration process. It would be a checkbox when you're checking out, so it'd be something completely separate from your race registration fees, and that would go directly to NEBRA. And then post-event, you wouldn't have to do any paperwork at all. You wouldn't have to do anything for 1 day. This is the system that NEBRA is using in the Mid-Atlantic. It's working quite well for them. So it's something we want to create as an option for promoters. We're not going to make anyone do this. I think it would be smoother for everyone. But we really want to get this proposal out to everyone, get some feedback, and see what people think. But this is an option to sort of streamline the post-event process for us. So that brings me to the end of the slides. Questions, comments from you?
That streamlined surcharge, is that going to be ready for 2019?
Yes, it's basically something that we can set up for individual events. The process is pretty much already done because NEBRA is doing it that way for all of their events. What I'd like to do is show all the promoters what it would look like when they're checking out, so that, you know, I don't want to make anyone feel like we're pulling money out of their event. Right. And if somebody wants to write a check, we'll do that. But this is something that we can make easier, but I just want to make sure that it's kind of sees how it works.
As a chief referee, I always filled out the form for the race director. So I would need to know that they did that. So that's why
the challenge is you do that, but not all the chief referees do. So sometimes collection can take 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You know, sometimes.
Yeah.
It's been inconsistent. So it's something that I think we can do a better job with. Our partners.
So what are you gonna do with that person that registers online and doesn't show up? If he's already paid $1, then normally the promoter wouldn't pay.
Correct. So just the same as if they were doing, not going to show up to the race, you would not necessarily refund their entry fee, depending on the policy that you have. But it would be an online, it would be a surcharge, so they would not be eligible for a refund for that. So the offsetting thing is that for day of riders, we would not collect anything for day of.
But the thing is, we always, as a motor, just click on or come in another race. So we're still get charged for that at another point in time. So if you do it this year,
Yeah, if-
next year we won't get it.
If you're going to do a credit, so it depends on what your refund policy would be. So if you gave them a credit, we would have to apply that surcharge towards the next year's or next events.
Because that can be hard to do online.
That's going to be one of the technical questions.
So I guess I should speak about this a little bit. So initially I thought this was complicated and not gonna work and a big pain. So we reached out to NEBRA and like, so you're right, there's like all kinds of accounting mishaps, right? But we already have that where it's hard to figure out like the exact count of like who started, who finished. Like, let's be honest, how often do you get like an actually accurate start list versus like a reg list? At least like, so there's already like all kinds of fuzzy math going on. But nevertheless, like I completely share your concerns where it was like, do we really want to do this? Like, how are we going to manage people that, you know, register online, don't show up, people that register twice online? But basically I got the assurances from the NEBRA guys that they've been like universally pleased with how this has worked out. So we make it an option. And if it's, I would say if this is frustrating to you and you don't want to deal with it, you're worried it's going to cost you money, like just don't do it.
It is only $1, but it's an incentive, it's an extra incentive to not pre-reg.
Well,
So there's one more dollar out of my pocket if I decide not to show up. There's one more dollar
For sure.
out of my pocket.
Yeah.
Whereas if we're going to collect USAC fees based on what the true rider day is the day of, I think NEBRA should stick with making sure that they align to the same number of riders. You true up on the day of the event in terms of what. So if somebody registers bike reg and they're a no-show, I don't pay their USAC insurance fee.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. No. So I was with you naturally. So I talked to NEBRA and they were like, it's simpler. The money's basically the same. When you get right down to it, it works. So we're gonna make it an option.
The juniors were excluded.
Right. Like juniors are excluded. Trainings like
Calculated on that.
right. Like yeah. Like so in bike reg we basically tag categories as like full price versus junior categories.
So that's the other thing is it helps us ease through that process where we only collect the surcharge on a certain dollar amounts of the entry fee. Sometimes that doesn't, if there's a post-event form that says 300 riders, and they don't pick out the juniors, then I have to go back to cross results or road results and figure out how many junior starters. So it's always not quite accurate. So I think, again, this is an option that we are offering to promoters. Certainly if it's something that you're not comfortable with or you don't think fits your event.
Right. I guess and one other thing that's actually maybe useful here is because it gets added as like a $1 surcharge, it doesn't appear as part of your entry fee. So it's never, so your event is basically $1 cheaper or you're getting $1 more depending on how you are managing the fees. But in this way, like your reg page doesn't show $46, it shows $45, even though ultimately like the customer checks out.
Through it, here's a possible option, is have bike reg withhold the final payment to the tune of the dollars they collected for the surcharge.
Yeah, I mean that's basically how it works.
Promoter would have, that is how promoter goes in and says, this is how many rider days I have, and I'm gonna, then we have to figure out.
Well, no, because I mean that's the thing is it's basically just a $1 thing getting tacked on, and then if you don't credit them, if you leave the entry in, right? So when the event's done, it still looks like they were in the race. Then that $1 that you never.
Sorry, my idea is wrong.
Yeah, that $1 gets paid out. Anyway, basic answer is this was tested Mid-Atlantic. They were psyched with it, so we're gonna try it, and maybe next year we can talk about how it either didn't work or it was great.
Option. So.
Yes, it's actually a question to trust. Does this one have any?
Oh, I think maybe it's
Actually, does you set or like have any data on what percentage of registrations do not actually show up on race day? And what would the standard deviation of that number would be?
I don't have that handy, we can suss it out, but it'd be tough.
Yeah.
It's really hard for USAC to figure it out. It's really kind of.
Yeah.
Motors and bike reg.
We can do it, be very hands-on.
Yeah, you said will have a final rider count, but they don't know the three-way. And Mike Red won't have the final rider count, they just.
Unfortunately, like all that accounts, it's gonna be so much fuzzy because you're gonna have people that show up and they're like, oh yeah, I don't want to do this race, but they do a lap, I'm like, take me out to start this, so it doesn't hurt me cross points.
Right, but I'm curious, I'm curious how far you have to abstract that data to get a usable trend, or if it's even possible to get a usable trend. And if you abstract it to a regional level, to a all race in the spring level, to a national level, at some point, is there a trend that you can use to change how you collect surcharges, how you collect insurance surcharges to streamline the process from players?
I would say maybe, and I would have to call after.
Sorry about that. Blame me. I was just gonna add to it.
Actually, a question for Chuck about the breakdown of the rider counts. Is it on the post-event form, there is a place to put in each category, each count? Does USAC use that information and they only look at the total?
Well, we've been really, I'll talk about this a little, we've been really bad at data. We have very dirty data, which is changing. We actually, I think, look a lot more at the uploaded results to grab information. That is pretty clean data because it tends to come with the race records.
Okay, so that helps us as officials and chief refs, because now we don't need to waste our time getting breakdowns of categories as we have sometimes in the past. Some do, some don't, and that's what I'm asking.
That form is actually changing. I'd like to go to big categories we are, but you split stuff up and it self-populates. So I've just been dragged into that side of the shop about 2 months ago.
Okay.
I'll talk a little about that.
Okay.
So I think our.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we should have tested this projector with my computer before right now. But I didn't think of that, so let's hope it just plugs in.
What we call just doing it live.
Yeah, they were doing it live. This is gonna be great. What could go wrong? Right, what do we have for tables over here?
Need the old HTML.
Yeah, okay. Here's one end. Yeah, if anybody needs to use the bathroom, grab a snack, now would be a great time to amuse yourself for 3 minutes.
We need a hit projector.
What's that?
We need a hit projector so we can just come in and hot swap these out.
Right, I was thinking I should have sent you like my PowerPoint. There's all kinds of ways I could have done this. That would have been more pro. I'm also going to stand right in front.
Oh, I need to leave this here because I have all of this. Yes. Yeah, I just put it in. I don't know, but it's tells me that Pittsburgh's criteria is not changing. That was an actual. Should be July 7th. They do have levels around there, July 6th.
Where's it going? Or what's, is Pittsburgh still double weekend or just one day?
That's the last time I talked. That's how I talked.
Yeah. I like it, Alan. I like it. All right, it's been 3 minutes. YouTube. YouTube runs well. I have no idea if it's going to even be useful, but I'm recording it. I'll look at it later. All right. Welcome to the 2018 NEBRA annual meeting. Who here thinks that they are part of a club that is part of NEBRA? Show of hands. Who here is part of a club that's a part of NEBRA? Ben, put your hand up. Yep. Who here is not part of NEBRA? Who here doesn't know? At least someone's lying, but I should have done that differently. Start with who doesn't know. Yeah. Who here has ever been the president of a corporation? So you guys know. Anyway, I'm the new president of NEBRA. I don't really know what I'm doing, but that's the essence of being an adult. Here we are. Yeah. So this is the NEBRA annual meeting. Let's see. So for a while we did this in person at the Promoter Summit. Then we stopped doing a Promoter Summit and started doing this by conference call. And I can't listen. Don't do that to me.
Just check and see what's working.
Yeah, if I could just hear my voice on a 5-second delay, that would be great. Yeah, so we did this by conference call for many years, and obviously no one wants to do anything on a conference call, so it was just John talking into the void. So we're bringing it back as a real thing, so maybe we can have some interactivity. And is it moving? Oh, it is. All right, here we are. So there's now 35 clubs and race directors in NEBRA, which is more than we had last year at this time. But still, what, 20% of the 156 USA cycling clubs? So one of the questions remains, why only 20% of clubs are part of NEBRA? Why don't want to be part of NEBRA? And I don't know, we actually need to probably look at the breakdown and see what Like who here could name 156 cycling clubs?
And then when you, that 156 is USAC.
That's USAC. So the way we work right now, and we debate this every year, but we haven't changed it, is that our membership base is, let's just work on this technical issue here. So the potential membership base is USA Cycling Clubs. So if you are a club or an organization of any magnitude, but you're not a USAC club, then you're not eligible to be part of NEBRA, which obviously makes us effectively very sanction oriented. Yeah, so that's a thing. All right. Right, so that's is that the end of 2018 number?
2018, those are clubs that have paid a license fee.
Yes, they're official, real deal USAC clubs. You can find them on the website. You can pick them on your license. Yeah. So here's where we are. Luckily, we don't have to do a roll call because when everyone was introducing themselves, I was making notes on my sheet. I think we have 13 or 14 of our 35 members represented here in some capacity, which is honestly better than the conference call used to do. So, way to go, in-person annual meeting.
Hey, Colin?
Yes.
So did you send out, NEBRA send out an email to those 156 clubs and say, hey, join NEBRA?
We do.
As the president of MTC, I've never done it.
So, don't worry about it. Okay, can you speak to this?
So, which email, I'll catch up with you individually, but a lot of it depends on who the official contact email
Yes,
is.
and I'm sure that's probably some challenge.
Yeah, and sometimes people don't share their email address, even,
But I guess my point is like, have we spent the energy?
The never-ending challenge of email communication.
Just, you got 156 clubs, did you get a response from them?
Right.
Follow up with them. 20% is pretty low.
Agreed. Yeah. I'm sure you got an email from me about renewing your membership, or had you already renewed at the time I sent out renewals? Yeah. Okay, so in any case, membership continues to be something that honestly we need to work on. Because there's a lot of people out there running clubs and they should be more engaged, and if they don't want to be engaged, we just understand why. Yes, Dan?
Since we have some new sector as well, is it conceivably possible when you sign up for a club to have an option to say, do you wish to also sign up to a local association?
It's done, we have 34 associations and they're all done differently. So it is probably an option, and
like everything in IT, it could be done, but it won't be done.
what is the cost benefit analysis?
I would say searching IT reference.
one of the challenges that some local associations, being a club is mandatory, or being a member of the local association is mandatory, either as an individual or as a club. So if you go out to Washington State, you have to become a member of Washington State Bicycle Association.
By default, the clubs, for instance, we just held Southern California for election. The electors of the board are clubs. So if you are a club, you are a member and thus elected board.
Right. So I guess one thing we've discussed and never done is basically automatic membership. And I think the biggest concern is that there's all these entities that are very disengaged, and taking an entity that's not engaged and then making them part of something they're already not engaged with just means you have more inactive membership. So for us, if a club doesn't even want to be part of this to the point of communicating and kicking to a form, then we'd probably rather not have them. We'd rather be valuable enough that they want to be part of it rather than saying
want to be a part of the organization.
Okay. Yes, Mike.
Do you think the memberships increased because of what you did this year, where if you actually did something for NEBRA, you get a free entry into it?
Right. So this is part of how we're trying to change how this organization works. As JD mentioned before, we learned a lot last year from talking to virtual promoters, and we're going to learn a bunch this year again. So we made some changes. People were universally not thrilled about a 5K social media line item, so that's gone. We now make it JD's job, and therefore it's free, right? Because there's not a line item. But we've also started the bi-weekly MailChimp newsletter. We're working on figuring out better ways to market events and help promoters market events. One of the big things that we changed was it used to be, there was a clause where you had to be a member of NEBRA for 30 days before you could vote in the election, which seemed, well, if you're already a member, you pay dues on time and everything, then you're like, of course, we shouldn't allow new members. They could register at the last second and change the election. But in practice, it made us come off as secretive and reclusive, and that's stupid. If you are a USAC club, like the barrier to being a USA Cycling Club is relatively high. So the idea of registering to be a club at the last second and then joining NEBRA at the last second and then casting a vote that swings the election and changes the world at the last second, in practice is just not a thing that's ever going to happen. So it's gone. So right now, if you're thinking, my club's not part of NEBRA, and community vice president's not who you are, don't worry, there's still time. Maybe my spreadsheet, maybe I missed it with spreadsheet.
He signed it on. Dan signed us up with the free membership for having a race.
Okay, I had things sorted alphabetically. I didn't see you under the C's, but we'll discuss this later. It doesn't need to be.
Got our USAC club license this week.
Okay. Anyway, no sweat. I just want to make sure that you are members since you're here. Yeah, anybody who's not, we got it sorted out now. There's no rule that says if you weren't members on January 1st, then you don't exist in 2019. So we took care of that. Another thing, this was a suggestion from Joe Rodriguez that I think is great. If you put on an event, then membership with NEBRA is free. Like any club putting on an event, paying that $200 USAC fee is already like clearly invested in the sport. We would love your $35 just because everybody needs money, but like, don't worry about it, So now any promoter that put on an event in the previous calendar year gets a free membership.
I assume the sponsor, that you guys are doing the sponsorship drive for the jersey, that covers as well.
We'll have to ask if we get like a jersey sponsor, does that cover their membership fee or?
No, for like the $500 donation as part of the annual fund, that's a completely separate thing. Because the annual fund, we offer tax write-offs. Those are donations so we're not supposed to offer any goods or services for that.
Makes sense.
So, okay. But again, you're doing something like development process, any sanctioned event, it can be a clinic, it can be a tour, it can be a farm.
Yeah, it's just a thing where we don't need the $1,000 total that we were making off memberships from people that are already working, honestly, like pretty freaking hard to make sport work. So it's like a small gesture, but we did it. What else did we do? Major achievement that has been kind of interesting was we just decided to update cross points. We've been back and forth with USA Cycling for several years about trying to get the point scales updated because I don't know how many people already know about this, that you couldn't get a bigger race. Like the points stopped getting deeper at 50, but in New England, we regularly have 100, 125 rider races. So, getting 9th at Gloucester out of 125 people is pretty damn good, and you should get some points for it. So we just said, ultimately, like upgrades have a baseline in points given by the sanctioning body, but there's also tons of discretion. So we're going to formalize our discretion and say, we're going to use these points for effectively discretionary upgrades. I believe that's been relatively well received nationally. What I'm hoping Chuck's going to nod, but it's okay if he doesn't.
So we took, just so everybody knows, we took upgrades out of our regulations this year from the policy.
Okay.
So that we could do stuff like this.
Okay, so then some regions then have more ability to do what they see fit. There you go.
Although, you'll be surprised at the number of people who change their address to their mom's house across the state line to get the easier
Oh, no.
We've done that.
We've dealt with that in our different case. Let's see. Another change we made is we didn't do the Arts Adventure this year. We got some blowback from voters that we were effectively competing with them by putting on a gravel event in August when they're trying to put on races. It wasn't making us enough money to be worth fighting over. So that was that. Once again, kind of like the membership fee, we're like, it's $1,000. If it's stretching out our customers, we'll just stop. There's a new president after 9 years. of John Lockheimer's reign of terror. He stepped down, and a board member had to become president, and here we are. I'm the president. We officially took over, well, we more formally wrangled a cross schedule this past year, which meant I emailed everyone, and then everyone said when they wanted to have their race, and then there was tons of conflicts, and then we tried to put people that were conflicted in touch with each other, make some suggestions. I thought it went well, and then you said cross days were down 22%. So I hope they're not related, but we did that. We're gonna do it again. But it's been, I thought in general, it helped.
Weather may have had something to do with that, this is horrible.
There was a lot of factors, yeah. I know when you were enumerating events we lost, you did not mention Riverfront Cross, or like the one before Quad, right?
Riverfront was
That disappeared. Yeah, and honestly, Midnight Rock going to a weekend day also effectively cost us a race because then they used to be on Wednesday, so they had like more new race, but
They also massively increased their.
yeah, but still, no one else was taking this day because it's a big race near Boston. So anyway, we did a cross schedule. Yes, Joe.
Quick question, and I apologize if I'm not in the loop on this, but I think getting promoters in touch with each other, the cross schedule, I think it's a good thing no matter what.
Yeah.
I think we need to do the same thing for the road and grid season, earlier on, and have people communicate, put people in touch, whatever it takes, because there's a lack of communication between promoters.
Yeah.
I think
that.
Yeah, I think the thing that drove the cross schedule is that we're way past saturation on cross events. So it was like, there's clearly value to trying to like get people to at least, if you're gonna have the same day, not be near each other. Because we don't have so many road events that we're like, all stacking up on the same weekend, there hasn't been a push for that, but you're still right in that. We probably really should have like, I don't know how formal you've been with like solicitation of road dates and communication.
We sent out emails to the promoters list, we sort of keeping a running schedule, which is now up. And we just don't have that many conflicts. I mean, we have a few. We unfortunately have a lot of open dates. So,
Well, I think that poses another opportunity that we were looking at, not just, in this case, we're looking at how can we best organize and schedule for this the most exciting and
yeah.
right? So it's a different type of challenge, but that's the primary reason for promoting that.
We did a lot of individual wrangling, like the quick league moves, all those players were talking to people that they were going to move on top of. But we didn't do it in terms of a macro, everybody on the same conversation. So it just wasn't pressing this cross.
I think, the BCA 2 years ago, we had a, early season cross race. And it rained a ton. I assumed, this last year, there was the same problem with promoters. So then we fight with our people where we had the event to see if we could have the events the following year. And so we had to kind of deal with pushback during the summer. And ultimately, we couldn't come to an agreement. So then that takes me in the position of having scrambled to try to find another location or venue for us to have an event. Some things did open up for us. We possibly could have done something in November, but I really didn't get a lot of communication about other events that weren't going to happen that were supposed to happen. Right?
Yeah.
So then I never. Right. I potentially could have done something in November. And so,
did we ultimately end up with a November day that was pretty empty?
yeah, ultimately there was sometimes in November that I possibly could have had an event.
Yeah, that's kind of been one of the tough things is when we did a cross schedule, it was jacked. Yeah. And then, people put themselves on schedule in good faith and then stuff happens and they kind of like drop out. Like at one point we had, this New Hampshire weekend at White Park Suburb and both said they were going to do their events and then they slowly like melted away. White Park is get an event in there. But yeah, we definitely need to, when we perceive an actual opening, reach out to people. Yes, Ben?
So this is kind of a couple of common vacancies at 22% down. That's a big number. And the Hampshire weekend, it's about 350 for Saturday at White's Park and almost 500, I think, for Suburb.
It was almost 1,000.
Yeah, so that's 900 rider days. There's no way a single event would be able to top that. So is that 22% down? Is that actually like?
I mean, it's not just New Hampshire's fault.
No, it's not a question of that, just, yeah, it's like, is this a good downward trend? Better fall in once we think that, don't jam out.
Like 20 cross races was not that the average cross race was 22% smaller. You know, so it seems like it mainly came from event loss and not
There were a few event losses. There were also things like we lost the demonstrators. It's been a long time since we had a race in far northern Vermont or New Hampshire. You know, Alan used to run a really great UCI race. So we're seeing a little bit of contraction towards Boston, which is good for those events.
Right.
But maybe it's bad in the overall picture.
Right. If all the quality events
Yes.
happen to just be in the south and then no one like races anymore and north.
At one point, Anthony and Heidi, we were talking about the possibility of cross race. We're like, I don't know where we're going to push it. The schedule was jam packed, and then we ended up at the beginning of September with a huge gap. So.
Yeah. So I guess back to the original point. For sure, communicating open days in the cross schedule is a priority. And if we had any actual open days that we didn't reach out, then that's our fault. We messed that up, for sure. And I think whenever we get cancellations that lead to like a truly open day and not just like a slight relief of pressure, then we will be reaching out to all the promoters and make sure people know and see if anyone can move. I think, but our big problem is when you get 1 month's notice of, you know, hey, you want to put your race on September 16th, and it's already August 15th. Like, that's pretty hard to pull off.
I can get you the numbers, but part of the day after the folks mountain bike racing was up, so maybe that fits in there somewhere. Some people are doing more of that, or all during cyclocross and road season.
Yeah, from an overall New England bike, from a New England competitive event registrations are not down. So people are still racing bikes at the same frequency they've always raced bikes. They're probably going to a more disparate number of places. And it's interesting that they're leaving cross faster than road, honestly. So we'll see if that trend continues more than a year, because it's definitely very new this year. Unlike road trends where we've been able to see like a pretty steady 5% decline. Cross like out of nowhere just went those guys. So
there's a lot of big drivers for going out and finding new bike racers because the ones that we have are doing a whole bunch of different stuff, and maybe they want to try different things. So we need to go find new people who want to race bikes, and whether it's getting them into a mountain bike race, or gravel race, or crit, we've got to grow the size of our competitive base rather than try to concentrate with these same event.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my only warning on that is I would really want to scrutinize what was the cause of the drop off this year in cross. I mean, as an event promoter, I can tell you is everyone, we now have bike reg, everyone waits till the last possible minute to see what the weather is and to determine whether or not they're going to do a race. The weather sucked this year. It was absolutely terrible. People got tired of trudging through mud up to their knees. And I think you can attribute a lot to that. I mean, our race, we were really fortunate with weather, and we saw a 20% uptick in ridership. So
MRC got 20% this year.
Yeah,
Wow.
we went from low 200 up to well over 300.
Were you wet the year before?
No, we were new the year before. We were new the year before, and we were part of the Connecticut Series, and we shared a weekend with another Connecticut Series race. So Brody went the day before us. We went the day after. It was vice versa. We were sharing the same weekend. I think that diminished our numbers. This year we had our own weekend in Connecticut. The nearest race to us, I think, was pretty far up in northern New England. And we went from, I think, like 220 up over 300 easily.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, good weather, timing as well. But like I said, that said, a lot of the Connecticut Series we saw when the weather was bad, we saw about half the ridership.
Right. I mean, that's honestly like you're never gonna completely be able to change the fact that
Right.
exercising in the rain kind of sucks.
Well, which is why I don't want to necessarily say that like the cross thing is over.
Right. No, I don't think cross is not over at all. But
we have the MRC.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. My mental picture wasn't that
We
table.
lucked out with the weather.
Yeah.
Our numbers were down about 5%.
Yeah. I honestly, like on average, 5% down seemed to be pretty par for the course. I spent a lot of time looking at bench numbers, and yeah, Gloucester, I would say Gloucester was down 5%. Northampton was down like 3%. I don't know, it's all like a lot of little losses, even in the existing events. But like going from 1,000 to 950 is like not that noticeable until you know actually look at it. Yes, sir.
Guys, what were your two races?
I had Belltown Cross.
Minuteman Cross. You know, when you guys are talking, if you wouldn't mind,
sorry.
just start and just say my race, you say my race, you say my race, Belltown Cross. It helped us a lot.
What, you don't know?
I don't.
World famous.
I wasn't at either one of them.
I've had great sales ago, so.
All elements there.
Questions, so you don't have to answer, but this is a thought. So you made a comment saying, like you said, cost was down 5%. That doesn't count because everybody comes for that. Have you ever thought about parsing the data between like big star races versus the not ones? Because as cool as Belltown is, it's kind of hard to check that against Gloucester. Like,
Well,
your numbers.
see, that's why I don't agree. Like participation is still participation. You know, this idea that like everybody goes to Gloucester, it's not true. You know, Gloucester going down 100 people out of 2,000, that's 5%. You don't feel it because you get to Gloucester and there's still, you know, 950 people a day there. But when you're Paul, you're trying to balance your budget 100 times an average entry fee of $45. It's almost $5,000. Like I would say like this like small contraction was not like just small events and not just big events. Like it's pretty overall. In like once again anecdotally, because like you said, I didn't prepare for that question. But yeah, it was. I don't know. I mean, you have spreadsheets too, looking at like buy rates across the board. It doesn't seem like being a marquee event magically insulated you.
What the bigger trend that I was going towards that, especially because like you talked about something like the Notorious series, New England Crit Week, and all these other like events that are basically banding together. It's almost like promoters are becoming corporations right now. That like, are you going to start parsing the data differently? Because if you want to bring more promoters into the scene, it's going to be really intimidating if they've got a 5-week heads up and oh by the way, we're on the road. You can't necessarily control that. I'm just asking.
Right. I mean, we should talk about ideas for how to lower the barrier to entry for promoters. Basically, right now, the answer is Jade is a resource who can talk to you about getting started on our event.
And part of that too, when you look at the big events like Gloucester versus smaller events like Connecticut Series, you're looking at the difference between races and events. And the races that are just races, where you show up, get your number, and go home, they're struggling. The events like Gloucester that has a presence, that has a name. I think one of the reasons you see the success of the Connecticut Series is because they've done such a great job at tying everything together, marketing, getting logos. I mean, that they have that same logo at every race, and they've got a schedule of communication that's going out. They've got some social media presence. That all adds to their success. So it helps people find their events, helps people participate in their events, and it makes those are the kind of events that people want to go to. So a lot of the help that we can provide to a new promoter is figuring out where they fit in the schedule, what we can do to make their event unique, like what target they should have, whether there's something that's brand new that's replacing a very strong like UCI, you want to replace that very racing oriented, whether you're replacing something like ice easels. Never replace ice easels. Party events, something like that. So, yeah.
What percentage of attendees at the CCAP races is juniors?
Yeah, that's what I was going to
It can be up to 30%.
You want to parse it and what type of event it is, but if you talk like second cross, or cross, it's about 30–40%.
I mean, I would mention there's not a single other race that has that much depth.
Right, yeah, definitely I would say that a big part of the CCAP cross program, the Connecticut Series Cross is the junior aspect.
So the other thing, just and 2 notes on that. One, doing CCAP juniors, that's a huge proportion of our ridership. But the second thing was by joining the Zane series, the single speed series, we went from like 7 guys to over 35. So we added women single speed riders, which we didn't year before, so. And I think, honestly, having SAIC as part of it added a whole new sort of fun aspect to the race that I think attracted other riders, so. Being part of their series.
Finding that community that you want to be a part of is a huge part of your success.
You don't necessarily have to answer this, I'm not sure it's an answer, but, you guys talked about like increasing the ridership. Obviously with cycling, that comes at a pretty high barrier to entry for participants. You need bike, you need all that kind of stuff. It's not, and some of the people that are the riders might be riders that are doing unsanctioned races or are already training on bikes. But have you considered, or is there any programs about getting people on bikes in general that would help with that?
I think it's one.
Adults, sorry, adults.
I think it's one of those things that's like, honestly, it's too daunting for us. Like, right? I love it. We all want to get more people on bikes, but like, man, I don't know. I asked Dave. That kind of stuff.
So maybe the bigger question is NEBRA considering a partnership with an organization that does that?
You mean like CCAP?
Well, it's not from an adult standpoint, so is there like methods groups that are?
There are a number of programs,
Grades, clubs.
that are doing like, kids build bikes and get bikes out in the community, Broadway Bicycle School, some other programs like that we can try and tie into. It's just finding them and figuring out how to network them with race promoters or trying to get something like the BC High Cross Kids bikes. That's been a huge success. We need to get other schools like that, and then maybe try to pull in some parents or other people in their community.
If I can throw into consideration, if you're looking for a way to attract clubs to push up your sort of NEBRA, one way of doing that would be to support the clubs in doing that. So I think that's what the mission of most clubs is, right? People riding. So taking grants, not just for promotion of racing, because that's very race focused, but rather for getting people riding. That's definitely something our club would be.
Right, and I think this is a communication type of thing where I think any organization that came to us and said, can we have financial assistance to try to get more people into bike racing or riding? Like that's a no-brainer, right? Like, please take my money. Like, please do put on whatever you think you should put on.
But you gotta, I'm not criticizing, but you gotta communicate that out. Like, my knowledge of the grants is pretty limited, and I thought it was just for promoters.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. One thing that's like getting going back to the one grant per promoter per year is you want to have access to a bigger pool, and with the grant schedule, at least we're getting 3 shots at getting that message out this year instead of just putting it over the web page. So good. Certainly.
Yeah. So to move on, because I know we can just go forever.
Sorry. The question for you is, do you have any data on the difference in how many races go away or come back per year, comparing this region to other regions of the country where they want clubs to put on an event? Are there any regions?
I don't know. No one's required.
So there will. Emirates, I don't know if you even, because if nobody is doing it anymore, I don't know if you'd be able to even get data out of it, but to see, did that actually improve the rate at which events were put on? Or was it just?
That's the kind of question I can't answer, so I'm going to defer to the USAC guy who also can't answer.
There's no one who's required to come on events anymore as part of their local association.
Okay. Another question for you is, someone asked about barriers to entry for new promoters. Has there been any sort of consideration looking at the non-scaling or minimally scaling costs for promoters? So things like getting EMT to come out, or getting timing companies to come out, where you're going to pay a fee based on the day and the distance, but not necessarily the number of riders you get. Where if you have bad weather on the day of your first ever event, you get notice through that. Has there been any consideration to setting up some kind of a preferred vendor system, or possibly NEBRA owned equipment for timing or something like that can offer low cost access to those resources?
We should talk about this when I get to my later slides.
Okay, and the last one.
Brothers, you sure this shouldn't be for my later slides when we talk about?
Yes, you were asking about getting people onto bikes. Yes. I have seen an example elsewhere in the country of the junior program that was able over, it took years to put together, but over the course of several years, put together a loaner/rental bike program.
What program is that?
Rock Creek Fellow. Rock Creek Fellow, they're in NEBRA, they used to be part of Artemis. Over a several year period, they went from like 15 kids that were just like kids of people on the team, things like that, to something like over 150 riders with 50/50 under parity. And their bike loaner program is part of how they got there, but it took a long time because they were accumulating bikes. Like they go to bike swaps and get 5-year-old race bikes that they want or stuff like that. But that's a conversation we can have. Like, it's a large enough scale if you, especially if you wanted to offer it to non-juniors, or if you want it to be a thing that Cat 5 could have access to, that requires a level of scale commitment that an individual club in NEBRA would be unlikely to offer unless it was a really big club. But it could be something that NEBRA could organize with help and sponsor. If you wanted it to be a thing for juniors and Cat 5.
I think it's a more matter than NEBRA is person, which is smaller than most clubs.
Right, but
So
NEBRA has a brand.
We do have a brand. I'm going to talk about the
Moving on.
administrative of the brand, and then we'll talk more about how NEBRA can save the world. Yeah, so as members of the corporation, you of course know and memorize all these facts, which is that we do board member elections every year. We had in the past, there had been a lot of appointment going on at the board, which was contributing to this air of secrecy. So we are strongly heading away from that, which is why we have 4 seats up for election and 7 people vying for them. And they're actually all super qualified, and I think it's going to be good. I don't really care which 4 of these 7 people get elected because they're all good bike racers that care. So the election's going on right now. It ends on Wednesday. I've already gotten 17 out of 35 votes. That's 50%. So there's still a bunch of entities that have not submitted a voting form. I will bug you again on probably Monday or Tuesday. So that will establish who's on the board. Once we have our new board members, then we do an annual meeting where the board sits in a row. There's some bylaw changes. Putting in a 6-year 3-term limit, so you can't be on the board forever. Basically, there's no reason for, we don't want this to become like, you know, the old guard, like a closed system. We'd like to see more turnover in the board. We want like this to be a corporation, you know, run by us, for us, not just like some guys running a thing. So term limits one way where it's gonna help that. And then super boring stuff, like we don't have a secretary anymore because the secretary never did anything because the administrator did it. So it's like, why are we electing a secretary to do nothing, blah, blah. That's gone. We have an indemnity clause, which means that if I do something really dumb as a board member, acting on behalf of NEBRA, you still have to sue NEBRA and not me. So I know you're all really worried about getting sued as board members. Now you won't be because you'll get sued as NEBRA. And we have insurance for that. Who doesn't love lawsuits? So anyway, we're changing that. We also, turns out, Alan, I'm sorry, the original articles of incorporation said that you could be a New York race director or a club. And that had been taken out of the bylaws a while ago. The problem is that if the bylaws and the articles of incorporation don't agree, the articles take precedence. So we found that out because of some consulting from Dan. Dan, if I say anything wrong, you should tell me right now.
Okay, you're good.
Okay. So yeah, Dan has a lot more experience with nonprofit bylaws than we do. So he noticed that. So we had to decide either to bring New York back into the bylaws or to go correct the articles. And since we don't administer anything in New York, we did not think that New York clubs really should be part of NEBRA. So we're just cleaning up that language. Alan, I know you're like, honestly, the whole discussion, we just kept saying Alan. Because that was kind of the issue.
Hopefully, the blood didn't want too much, so.
No, well, that's the real problem. We don't, like, do we want to exclude Alan Atwood, who's a guy from outside the region who puts on events in the region? And we love you and we love your events in the region. I guess we just.
No, we know you can move back.
Right, so yeah, when you change the address of your corporation or your home back to New England, then Yeah, exactly. So that was the thing. Anyway. Yep. So no more Alan. Actually, but I don't think there was. You were not currently a member anyway. No. Yeah. See, exactly. So, hypothetical scenario of when Alan wants to join NEBRA and he looks up the old articles and then he sues us because they say this and has to say that. We cleaned up.
Okay, so good came out of it, he's gonna be cleaned up, so.
Yeah, we're cleaning it up. Thank you, Dan, for helping us clean that kind of stuff up. We've also changed it so the treasurer can't be a board member. This is probably a thing to make us a little more resilient to any fraud or weirdness, where people that make the decisions and people that handle money are not the same. So that was a recommendation we received that I'm not opposed to. And we have Leslie Tim as effective treasurer, so that's what we're doing for now. That was way less exciting than my last slide. Okay, hey, financial report. Yeah, last year we lost $500. This year we made $41. Nailed it.
That's a new president.
Yeah, exactly. That's an infinite percent increase, I think. Yeah, of course, that revenue is contingent on at least a few outstanding surcharge fees, but people would pay their invoices. I believe in what you, there's like 2 or 3 events that haven't paid us yet, but we're assuming that they are gonna pay. Otherwise we're down to 20.
Earlier, invoice will be next the end of December, that opens the email in January, it's February,
Yeah. So let's look at where they were. Oh, come on, slide. Are you kidding? That text was not white when I did this. So apparently every single label that I dragged to make more readable turned white. Sorry, I mean, can I fix it? Let's see if I can fix that. No, this is even worse. It's a PDF. On my computer, they show. I'm just going to show you this for a second. You see these labels? You see these beautiful labels?
It's good to get all working IT.
Oh yeah, that is ridiculous.
Just tell us what they say.
Yeah, we're just gonna we're gonna pretend that didn't happen. We good. We still have control.
Yeah, where's your little laser pointer?
No, we're gonna go with. I don't understand why 3 of them are business. Anyway, this is how we get the money to do what we do. Half of it, USA Cycling. Thank you, USA Cycling. Thank you, Sanctioned Events. Thank you, 17-cent rebate on Grand Final Rider Days. 31 cents. Okay, anyway, yeah, this is how the world goes round for us. Then the other, we take a quarter from race surcharge fees. So everyone that pays us that dollar, we appreciate it. We would not operate as we do without that dollar per rider. Then we actually get a sizable chunk from donations. That number's really big. Now that I think about it, didn't even occur to me what I would say for that. JD, why do we have $5,000 in donations?
So we have 2 different donation programs. We have the annual fund drive, which we do for a short period of time from December into February. And that's where we do things like offer spots on the jersey, basically offer you a tax break. So we collect a significant amount of money through that. And we also have a support for individuals, since individuals can't be members of a corporation. We have a supporters club program where individuals can donate money to NEBRA, they'll get some cool stickers, they'll get a t-shirt, and the remaining money ends up.
So it's like a mostly donation, a little swag.
Mostly donation.
In practice, it's a donation, but it's also just like individual membership concept too. Okay. There's also some donations that we get from unsanctioned events that can't be part of NEBRA, but still appreciate what we do. We got a bunch of money from Michael Powell, Rock Hard Racing, who runs an unsanctioned event for reasons that could be a 20-minute discussion. Okay, then he's like, sorry, but here's some money. So there we are. The other thing is sponsorship. We actually get $5,000 from Bike Reg, up from $4,000 last year, because JD is very persuasive, and I actually tried really hard to not be part of this conversation because of various conflicts of interest. Right?
Which we actually have a policy for that.
Yeah. Seriously, I have never said a goddamn word to Bike Reg about the sponsorship. I don't exist when we talk sponsorship. It's just that they like bike racing. Moving on, expenses. Hey, did you know that when you are an organization that administers things with employees, they cost money? Most of our money goes to payroll because we have an employee. He does everything. So basically, everything that we do sits in that slice. Grants, as mentioned, we gave out, we're up 30%, we're over $3,000. We gave out all the money that people could take. There's certainly communication improvements that we can make. You know, the fact that that's 100% it's like good but not good. I would, in a way, I'd love to like run out of money and or have to deny some grants, because then it'd be like at least everybody knows that we would love to help you put on bike stuff. We spent a bunch of money on promotion. And this is where it gets kind of fuzzy, right? So like, for example, NEBRA kits go up as income, and then they also go in as promotion costs, stuff like that. People are right, and then we get donations from supporters, but then supporters get T-shirts, you know. So that's like we're spending money to make money, that kind of stuff. One thing that was a clear just cost was we did series. So we did the road ranking series. If you want that, you got a jersey. I believe there's one jersey back there. Yeah. So we had to do a craft. Got a bunch of jerseys, sent them out. We only used, I think, half of them. More or less. So like that jersey cost was actually, you know, that won't be there next year because we have jersey inventory. And then we spend money on MailChimp because that's a professional email service that is actually super useful for communicating with folks. So that's where the money went. Luckily, the money we spent ends up being the money we took in. So we are cash flow neutral. I think we have around $30,000 in the bank. Right. So we have some like buffer for if next year we lost $5,000 because we got crazy with grants, that's okay. We can't do that every year, but like we're not like on the edge of, you know, running out of money or anything. Yes, Dan.
Can you go over the sponsorship with Beverage and how that's determined?
Yeah. So I don't know.
So we have 2 levels of sponsorship with Bike Ridge. We have a specific sponsorship for the ranking series. It's the NEBRA rankings presented by Bike Ridge, so they give us a flat dollar amount on that. And then we get a rebate on NEBRA events that run the registration through Bike Ridge. So we get I don't even know what the numbers, but a couple of cents.
So it's not a donation, it's an advertising.
So it's a
sponsorship. No, maybe it's something in return.
Right,
It's a sponsorship.
For one.
Yeah, it's not all by sponsorship and it's done that way. It's more.
See, this is where our nonprofit bylaw expert is taking very fair issue with our language.
So that slide should be split up for
taxable income.
Okay.
There you go. It's taxable income.
Because there's an incentive for NEBRA to use Bike Ridge. That have all the promoters use there.
Right.
Because we get.
Right. NEBRA gets something by us using Bike Ridge. It's not just. Yeah, because so basically because it scales with number of entries, then it's not just a pilot.
We won't get any money if we don't use Bike Ridge.
Right.
And we guys don't push that money.
Yeah, so it's not sponsorship, it's something else. Income. Yeah. I think it's been categorized as something like, well, when we do our taxes, we better make sure to do it right. For this purpose, I guess it could say,
email us into.
But yeah, we call it sponsorship. I guess it's not really.
Yeah, has there been any discussion to change that from flat donation rather than provider? To protect NEBRA? Because it is a tax liability, it's due to the IRS.
So, yeah. So the biggest issue. So now I'll step in as the guy that works at Bike Ridge. Bike Ridge does this for a variety of local associations, and from a financial standpoint, they always want to do it per entry, because if the races aren't happening, then they don't have any money. So it's always been scaled by entries to give them a business incentive to do it. But depending on the quantity of that tax value, perhaps something could be negotiated with flat fee. Because honestly, like we know how many entries are happening. So yeah, we should talk more, Dan, since you are an expert in this and I'm not. So I think this That's the financial report for the year. Oh, I lost my focus. Okay, so what are we gonna do in 2019? And here's a bunch of stuff we've alluded to, but ultimately, like, the point of an annual meeting and getting everyone in the room is for you to tell us what we should be doing. Well, I think, like, we all have, like, right, so here we are, collectively, we've got, 20 to 30 race promoters that are NEBRA members in the same room. And this is now a slide where Bobby and everybody else, can talk, but it's like, we've got a budget, we've got employee, and we have club knowledge as a group. What kind of value should we be adding to bike racing that we're not currently, or that we are? I think, based on last year, we got feedback on marketing. We tried to both save money on social media marketing and do more direct marketing by mail, or by email. We do the mail. We started doing, did the cross schedule thing. We've made adjustments that we think are appropriate, but this is when I'd like to hear ideas from members of the corporation of how they'd like to see, our path. Should we be doing more, doing less, doing things differently? So this is your big chance for an airing of grievances.
Just to clarify from the previous slide, when you mentioned that you don't have anything to do, or NEBRA doesn't have anything to do with sanctioned events, is that because of something in NEBRA's bylaws?
Right.
With our relationship with USAC?
Right.
Or is it just that NEBRA doesn't have anything that they can offer on sanctioned events?
So we do have things we can offer on sanctioned events, and that's kind of the never-ending push and pull, is that our members are USAC clubs, and we are funded by surcharges from USAC events. But two unsanctioned events did make donations because they basically wanted to pay a surcharge, but can't be NEBRA members because they're not in USAC clubs. So a question of how to capture those people happens every year, and we just don't have a good way to do it because you need some definition for membership. So right now it's like the hurdle is to be a USAC club, and if that hurdle's not there, then is every group of is everyone that puts a race on maybe eligible for membership? Is every club, which is a couple guys with the same jersey, or not even? So we've never bridged into how do we? Yeah, we've never crossed that bridge. But if you have ideas, I'd like to talk offline.
And I think it's still, we should say that, NEBRA's policy is and has been that sanctioning with the national governing body presents a opportunity for the whole region and for the sport in general. It tends to be the best value for the entire sport. It gives athletes a clear path from beginner to Olympic competition. It provides you the ability to compete throughout the country, throughout the world, do UCI events. For all the talk about insurance and stuff, there really isn't any better insurance on there. You've got a corporation, the national government that's going to stand behind you when you get sued. They're going to really work to do the absolute best they can. So we think that there's a lot of value in those in sanction being a part of that governing body. We would ultimately like to work on reducing the barriers to entry to being part of that organization. That's one of the things we're always sort of pushing the society to make it easier to become a part, to become a racer, to open that sort of all the disciplines, are sort of merging together. So 3 years ago, there was really no gravel permit. Now there's a gravel permit without official. So we're really trying to make it as welcoming as possible. But there is still a value through that organization.
So with that going on, there's still organizations like EFTA or like NESCA where they're quite happy to run races without support of USAC via NEBRA because they feel that they've got their own things worked out and they're not concerned about things like a pathway to go from Cat 5 to Olympiad because they say, well,
Those are also non-bike organizations, which we don't work with at all for those reasons.
Right. My question is there anything that we could be doing to offer those races support without requiring that they become USAC events so that we can extend the NEBRA brand and hopefully draw people from non-bike racing into cross gravel?
if you have these people who only ever go to after races, they may not even be aware of the rest of what's out there playing. How do they do?
Dave has an answer.
This isn't necessarily an answer, but the answer is licensors. Or reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
And I don't know, Chuck, maybe you have any.
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
Yes.
Actually, I will correct, the Mount White community, how we're working with those guys. I know you guys don't administer it, but, it's pretty relevant. The biggest threshold we've seen with Mount White community is our license fee. I mean, quite frankly, and we're doing some work on that, so, I think it's picking up quite a few. We're about to announce a couple of big Mount White events we've brought on. And, yeah, we'll talk about value proposition further.
Is there any potential way that there would be an individual with all these cycling license that would be able to use that as a sanctioned body or vice versa?
We do have reciprocity, for example, at NEBRA, Oregon. They remain independent. They're covered by Washington as the LA. And we do have categories of reciprocity. We worked some out with the NICA group who does youth mountain biking in Utah. And we're actually allowing them to use those points for upgrading rankings in exchange for just what you're talking about, getting out there and having presence at your events. And we've had a lot of these one-off for developing some strategies I'll talk about.
And specific to NESCA, that conversation I had with the NESCA director last year about using those points. The same with that is, so it's something that we can do, and we've done a little bit of it last year. We do more of it. Part of it is, as much as that is a big mountain bike organization, they actually don't have a lot of annual memberships. Most everyone who does is on a one-day system, so it's kind of hard to, of the 160 annual license holders, almost 50% of them have a USA cycling license. That's about. So it gets back to that, like, what's the club, what's the sanction about that? Does that make sense?
So I know Alan, even though he's from New York, had a suggestion.
I'll change it a little bit here. Just light bulb went off when I see clinics up in there. Because I'm personally involved with at least 3 clinics that are going on, and 2 of the 2 collision weekends, and also White Rock doing clinics with all that through the Lord's upcoming series. So, I'm looking on the website right now, and I'm not sure. I don't think there's any location on the website as to where if people are interested in finding out, clinics on how to attend them. Is there some place they can go on the website right now, or?
Not right now, but we'd love to do that. That sounds like a great idea.
Right now, no, but that's one of the things on my list of things to assemble for the triathlon conference that we're going to be going to. And it's going to be something, when I go up to Massachusetts, we want to be able to hand people, a physical sheet of that list. And we also want to say, go to NEBRA.us and
if you want
find ways, find a clinic.
If your biker is curious, here's some places to start.
All the way up to participation is beyond that.
Yeah, it's 1 second. It's hard to market those people by our existing contacts because, like, by definition, we want them to become, they're not on our list because they don't know how to get into bike racing. So, reaching out to them is kind of, to some degree, it's a mystery, right? That's why we're approaching triathlon conferences. Because how else do you?
I got to figure out a way when I go to these places, like, how do I capture an email? How do I get ready to bring paper forms like you did at D2R2? I said, hey, sign up for our email list. You can find out about all these events. Like, go to this website. Part of it is, we print up these stickers so we can hand out to people so that they know we exist and that we're a resource for them.
But we also need to make sure to push that to clubs. Lots of clubs have people that are bike race curious that are not bike racing, and they say, like, here's the right way to get into a bike racing clinic. I think we need to encourage our club leaders to push that information out. Like, people listen to me. Well, people on BGC2 listen to me more than they would probably listen to you because I have this credibility of being like their friend. So, I think club leaders. Mike.
Club Cat 5. There should be biggest population, We should culture them very well, as a promoter, we want them to do our races, but we put so much restrictions on them. One restriction is, hey, you don't have, 35 now. Right. I don't know why that number keeps coming up, I'm gonna be a Chuck here, I wonder if you can answer that question. Why are we limited to Cat 5s at 75?
Yeah, originally it was 50, so,
Right.
we had a 50% increase a few years ago. Ostensibly, it's, I mean, it's a safety thing with road racing, is the thought put into it.
Mike is one of the only promoters in England that has a 75 rider Cat 5 field, so this is.
Well, I come out of the Greenville Springs series, it's in the southeast, and we'd run a A and B or a 35 over 3400, and then you get the scheduling issues as well. Ostensibly, in discussion with our road sport committee, it's been, do we want 100 and something Cat 5s out there?
Okay, I'm not, no, Grand Condos that have 3,000 people, don't, not in that level of Cat 5, out there racing between point A and point B somewhere in that Grand Condo, that's all right.
Understand.
That's the way.
No, but I mean, to reinforce that point, once you get to 75, I mean, I don't know that there's, is there data that shows that there's, you know?
Yeah, I mean, to a point, right? Like, if you've ever done a flat road race ending in a bunch sprint, like once you get past maybe 40 people, it's freaking terrifying. So is 40 to 100, like, I don't, who knows?
Maybe more than 75 if you run a full rolling fluid.
So that's one of the other.
Run full rolling fluid drive. We've issued derogations for stuff. I mean, and this is the tough point when we look at field limits and other things, is that, you know, we get too off topic, but there's a big difference between a 20-mile flat road race with tailwind and a race that ends up on top of half gap. I mean, there's a huge difference, and there has to be some flexibility to look at those. I have certainly issued derogations for Cat 5 races to go above 75 riders.
Right, that's all I'm looking for, is get a waiver for certain races, like when I have a 20 B race, and it's all hills throughout the whole race, and you're lucky to get 15 to 20 riders to finish the race.
If your course is hard enough, it makes total sense.
All you gotta do
If you want to have that.
I have been asking you, that's the problem. Now that you're here, now that we're going to ask.
All right, well, I look forward to you asking for it during Chuck's
Second question,
presentation.
Cat 5, is, I tried it last year, nobody in the Cat 5 tries it. My numbers dropped
I
dramatically.
tried it last year. You haven't been.
I always come with 4 5s, if you do that, you give money.
So you're.
So I went strictly a Cat 5, and hey, I'll just give you a nice trophy, because I can't give you money if I just do a straight Cat 5 race.
Yeah.
My numbers dropped dramatically.
Did your numbers drop dramatically because?
This is what?
So, did your numbers drop dramatically because there were no Cat 4s in the race anymore?
No, the Cat 5.
So your number of 5s.
Yes. If you raise for money, give us a small amount of money, they will show up.
Did it drop more than your numbers dropped on average?
Yes.
Okay.
That was my biggest hit.
Biggest hit was your 5s.
Where normally I would have waiting lists on both categories, 40 plus and for the record.
You really need prize money.
I'm telling you, it does. You might not think so, but certain races, you give a trophy, that will show. And it was beautiful weather. It wasn't like the weather involved or anything else.
Yes, that's.
And one last thing with Cat 5. Once again, we get all these Cat 5s, you want to do a race, they pay the entry fee. Oh, by the way, you have to do a 1-day license fee for another $10 on top of that. Why don't we go back to where we used to have citizen races? They show up, give them a race, another race, whatever fee that might be. But don't keep attacking more and more stuff on these new riders.
So now I can race without a license and I can race for money. That's. So doesn't that create a disincentive to ever become a real bike racer?
No, it gets them started in the race. The biggest group we have are the Cat 5s, right? We want to keep them going. So if they get more incentive, more racing, they want upgrades, they don't want to be all the other Cat 5s, right?
The more than 75 Cat 5s.
One of the original incentives for setting that category 5 as a no prizes category was the intent was that the promoter would then discount the entry fee by the 1-day license cost, so that because you didn't have the expense of a prize list, you would then charge those beginner riders a lower entry fee. So where it becomes a problem is when you're charging the same entry fee to your Cat 5 race with no prize list and to your Pro 1-2 race with a $3,000 prize. If you want to do that, you have the option to discount your entry by $10 because you don't have the expense of a prize list, and then say free 1-day license if you need it. And so for Cat 5 to have a license, you don't have that expense. You save the extra $10. For those who don't have a license, you get them in the door.
Yeah, but your bread and butter as a promoter is your Cat 5s. So you want to get as many there. And you want to give them another lot, because that price that you do give them or whatever is very small to start with. They're actually paying for the upper echelons, like the women that you have to pay for, the pro riders you have to pay for equally, right? That's what's your cash base. Without them,
Right.
you don't do anything else.
Anyone who's ever run a bike race has probably noticed that most of their money comes from lower categories.
So we gotta take care of it. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, we gotta reach out to them and we gotta give them a fulfilling experience.
Correct.
If you want to take care of them with money, I'd like that to be your prerogative. I personally don't want to take care of them with money because personal reasons. But that's the beauty of this, is that we can all kind of run our races the way we want them to be. So I don't want there to be institutional hurdles for you, but
I mean,
anyway.
you can also.
It sounds like a really good idea to show up and
First,
have
like
like this, and we'll have someone in the
race.
race, you can charge the line for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you want.
So,
All right.
Yep. Anarchy's breaking out. It's almost be lunchtime.
So it's more involved, that goes, I think that Mike has had a plan, this, so
Right. I guess you can ask for and you have asked for, and I guess you should ask for again.
The process would be that you would put out what you want in writing, email it to Chuck, Chuck would get in touch with us, get our take on it, and then either, actually it'd be Randy. Would it be Randy or?
Yeah, right.
So Randy Schaefer is the technical director, so you would get in touch with them, tell them what you want to do, give them your rationale. They will do a little bit of research, and then they will get back to you with a yes or no. That's the process. Yeah,
Correct.
I'll try to be quick with this.
The total,
We'll cover this later. Let's highlight some more topics here before we just.
So along the line of new ridership, I'll try and be quick with this. One of the things that we're really concerned about in our club is that 85 to 15% men to women riders. We really like to attract more women riders.
Right.
One of the questions is, rather than doing prize equity, and I guess maybe ask the women who are here, we were toying with just offering no fee to women. So like, I mean, I guess if we did no prize list, but no fees, how does that sit? Is that preferable? Yes?
I'm the one person.
No, I guess I'll put it out there to the public.
Yeah, we can certainly put that question out and try to get you some.
So there's actually a guy in this room that did a race with no fees for women, I think.
Yeah, actually, so we're gonna be trying this out.
I love it. I was staring at that, and I was actually looking at the other guy. I was gonna try.
I don't wanna hijack the forum.
No, this is. I would love to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, no, this is something that we're trying out this year, is we're going to be doing these for a non-bike race, so a little bit different. We're gonna be putting a cyclocross race.
Is it just collegiate or you got?
No, it's not just collegiate, it's for all categories, so we're gonna be seeing how that works out, but yeah.
It worked out really well for my mountain bike race. We had women, and then we didn't have women, then we had 7, and then they just did free entry for women, and went from 7 women races up to 22. That's great. I think we're probably gonna get maybe over 50 this year, word gets around.
Did you do a prize list with that, or did you just?
The equal prize.
Okay.
The big thing that I did was that it has to be free entry to get your money back. Because you don't want to run into a thing where, that sounds good, and now you wake up and there's no incentive to go. So you go to get your money back.
We actually disagree. We are over 20% of our women's field right now, and we haven't done anything now for women, so it's equal across the board, same rights, same nothing. But we agree in just talking to them, and knowing that there's 2 women in this room, you need a female to talk to them. I think that's more important than.
To talk to who though?
To talk to the women's crowd, right?
It's like personal outreach. A lot of this does come down to.
We do women
people
specific
you trust.
events, we do, we talk to them, we encourage them, there's a conversation, a relationship that has to be made, like women are a little bit harder to push out the door.
Right, well, I guess that's the question. It's the initial, how do we do the initial outreach to get that audience to talk to?
We've done three events for women, but not the actual racing event. It's getting women together and building a community. But it's equal fee because we don't want to dump anything down for women. Like we've had people saying like, oh, make fun course that's easier. But
Oh, no, I wouldn't do anything like that. I just wanna, if money, I don't know if it is, if money is the barrier, I just wanna get rid of whatever the barrier.
I mean, we've communicated that, you know, men almost feel like easier to spend the money, whereas women, you know, care about their families and their kids, they don't spend the money. But we're trying to teach women that, hey, you should care about yourself.
Sure.
This is something for you to do to build
Right.
diversity.
We did a campaign, or did a survey on our women's Facebook page last year to give more information about what is, where the barriers to going there keeping the priorities. And there really, there's a lot. Fear of getting out, fear of crashing is humongous. Fear of, you know, breaking everything, which is wrong. There's a lot of different things. So I can share that. I can share with you.
Yeah. And we also, 2 years ago, had a really great presentation here from 3 women who were on board. 2 of them, one of them was on board. And they had some survey data, and that is archived on our website. And the promoter resource section, so we can get that to you too. So there's some like survey questions on what they want to see at a race, what keeps them from coming to a race, and what are the things they feel are important.
Just to finish this up, I think Heidi's point about not dumbing it down is important, and that's probably where no entry fee but no prize money would be like a very dangerous step to take, because that's saying like, you know, oh, it's a little joke race. Like, it's not a real race. There's no prize money. Like that's.
No, I want to get it right.
Yeah.
And it also depends on where you're going, like, there's Mike's plan, if you have 100 women show up, where's it preventing where it's more and more women getting their badge checks and keeping them themselves.
Sure. Okay.
All right, Dan's hand's been up forever. I gotta go with him.
But going back, how many Monday licenses sold last year?
We have, I have that down, who those licenses were sold to.
No, I'm not asking, but we don't, because is it something where, obviously we want to lower the cost, but as new riders come into the race, is it something that we would take as an initiative to subsidize that somehow? Not picking it for a lower, but subsidize it across the board?
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable thing that we should be looking at, is trying to collect better one-day license data and then doing more aggressive marketing to those people. Like, you know, those people.
I'm not even saying it's going to, I'm not going after the individual riders. We don't need to find out we don't need to know Jane and Joe are doing that races. But let's lower the cost for them, just in general. So instead of, like Mike's point was, they come in and pay $50, they show up, oh,
So you're saying,
$10.
yeah, so you're saying subsidize one days, period.
Yeah, have people come in as an initiative to lower the cost for new riders.
Yes. That, I think that has potential. The biggest problem there is how do you do it universally and consistently before people. Right. So that, and can we afford it? Right.
Well, that's why I asked.
Right. It's like you know, what if we pay half of every one day, and one day is $15, what's that? Like, how big of that pie would that be? And that's where the question might want to come in.
That's what,
Right.
That's the question.
Could we afford to do that? You know, I think like that would be, and we do something like when we do a junior grant, a lot of times we'll cover like all the one days for like, so like kids race, we'll we cover all those, but that's, you know, one promoter applying for a junior development grant, not a blanket thing. And then, right, blanket application also means we have to go through much more official channels and use things like that.
You gotta remember those one days are sometimes just a guy that can get around with his license, but he's committed to the whole year anyway. Right. So.
Well, that's
you can sell it.
That's a different issue.
Well, I mean, what would be all that crazy idea that you have a Cat 5 who's never ever raced in his life, free full annual license that the promoter himself would do all paperwork for too, you know? You run for a track and then you be for license. The insurance.
They told us automatically get signed up for the automatically billing membership.
But no, in all seriousness, like the barrier, like license cost is a barrier to entry, and I think at 2 o'clock we might talk about that a little bit.
821 one-day licenses for competitive road and cyclocross events last year, out of 29,359 tickets.
That's
So it's,
not a huge percent.
It's
It would
not
cost
a huge
$4,000 to subsidize half of that.
there's a dramatic spike in cyclocross. You see a lot of Mondays in cyclocross. You do not see as many. So like, I've got my spreadsheet, the columns like 9, 3, 7, 1, and then you get the cross season, it's 22, 23, 24. So hugely more popular option across.
Joe, your hand's been up and down for a while.
Not to piggyback on what you're saying, Rob, but I mean, in terms of what we're looking at here, this is coming from a non-sanctioned event, so I apologize, but that's how we run our cross race. We had a low number of female participants, and essentially we were like, what can we do to get more riders? And we didn't really change anything except offer them same course, same amount of time, same prize list, same cost. You know what? We went from like 6 women to 30, 40 women. So I think they just want to race with the guys and they want to be treated the same way. And I think that it's a starting step. And I think most of the cross races are already doing that anyway. So
Right, especially in cross, equal payout it's been standard for so long now that if you don't do it, you like really stick out, and just having your event stick out negatively is like never a good thing, right? So.
And, I mean, we've been doing that. The Connecticut series, routinely, we're getting like 3 and 4 women fields in the, in CX, at least at the, sort of the elite level. At the Cat 3 level, we get a handful more, but not a lot. And so it's been the same. We've done purse matching and all that. I'm looking for new ways to get creative.
So one of the things that the Nightcross series did this year is they partnered with Bike Off East as their neutral sport. Wasn't at all of their races, but at a lot of them. And they ran a cross clinic for women to get women to try it. They had a couple of bikes that were available. They signed up in advance saying, yes, I want to take the clinic. They would go do the clinic and ride, pre-ride the course. Somebody, another woman racer, higher category would go and take them around, try it out. And at a couple of places, they got runners, people, women who were runners that, are fit and wanted to try something different. And so they took them around and did it, and then they get a free entry to their race later in the day. And that, I don't know how successful it was, but it was something new that I hadn't seen before. In the races, and I think it was at least at the few races I was at where they did that, they actually got women to sign up and try that out. For the Cat 5s coming in, somebody brand new. So that's an idea.
0. Whenever people want to eat, they should eat. Oh yeah.
Jumping on this whole conversation, so one of the things that I know that I got into the sport was a team on me. So you had races, a whole race series of all the relay races. Your team ended up having a standing. It's kind of skewed towards the bigger team, obviously, participations, but it encouraged teams to pressure members that weren't necessarily racers to at least do the local race. That's how I got into it. My first race was our local school race. I'd never raced before, but they were like, hey, we need people to be in this race to get points so we can go from third to second.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So each teams have like a good identity.
Right. And that was exactly, the peer pressure was great to get into racing, and I feel like there's not really an incentive.
Right.
So I know that's maybe an opportunity for me, but
right.
organize a team.
We've kicked around like should there be a team ranking or not a lot, and we've never come up with the answer is yes, and maybe that's a mistake on our part.
I know the big incentive for collegiate is that it determines your national.
Right. There might be like there would be stronger incentives for collegiate. Kind of we were always like, well, Remind Mellow just like why do we really need competition just to say Remind Mellow is the fastest club for the most people. Sorry, Dan.
I know like some races, like for example, there's a Fonda yard across the house. We have a team competition, and the Capital Region Bike Group sends out an email and says, we need people to show up. And sure enough, they have 12 people, including non-racers, who show up, because at the end of the day, they can be like, hey, we wanted this here.
Yeah, I think we will, I think at this year's board meeting, we'll probably talk about, revisit the value of team ranking type stuff, and if we can come up with a way to make it compelling and accessible, because it's not exactly legit, but your point is taken.
And you can bring new racers, cat.
Right, as well as, there's plenty of people on my club that don't race much, and maybe we get them to race more or start racing, other incentives.
We've also talked about doing club of the year competitions, not based on performance, but based on some other metric, like your club size or the type of events you like. If you see, here's the cycling, we did their entire club of the year program this year, and they now have best mountain bike club, best women's club, best junior club. So there's a lot of non-performance based outcomes that we can start doing to start recognizing these programs and we drive it up to, hey, well, this sort of try to improve the biggest number of people.
And I have a token thing, like we had a pink armband that was level 1 the ACCC, and they did that as a kid fall here. Because they got to walk out.
And I love college. It's so much simpler, it's so many ways. Yeah, so we could probably talk forever. I guess maybe as a closing statement time. If you have any ideas, feelings, opinions, complaints, grievances, just email me. I'm president@NEBRA.us. I'm also colin.reuter@gmail.com. You can probably all email me in some capacity in the last 12 years. I'm also on Twitter fairly frequently, if you're aware of that. So I would love to hear from the constituency on pretty much everything, because, you know, even though I've been doing this forever and I have all the data, I don't really have all the answers. So please yell at me about whatever.
And utilize the promoters Google group as a resource too, because it's really great resources. So the first something happens, you're like, yeah, I want to do this. That way we can have a crowdsourcing. So, we're going to break for lunch, and we're going to just trust Paul. We'll be back here in about an hour.
Where is that? He says.
Yeah, I think we were.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking, like, what's our first contact with? Really, you know, is there any reason to think this or not? Just like super Are you be like, yeah, are you on? So, yeah, okay. Right. Right. I like the club, you know. Yeah. So, okay, so so what I did last week, I grabbed everyone So Jay's making just like TV. Wait, it's I don't think you're just you put an email in, whatever order account, it's just I can ask Ray, text Danny. It's a long period where, like, I think I said first week of February, I said, I tell the they could it's not like it's not super big. Then again, just figured out the week. They're recognizing that they that would be great. I still remember my conversation saying, quote, you only, I remember crossing the center line and he said, you only gotta give him 3 feet. Basically, he basically was like, stop giving that second to the road. It's unsafe to drive down the lane. And I was like, well, I can we cross the seat. My parents drive, this is how you pass cyclists. I would actively discourage me from giving cyclists roads. So, but I think like most initiatives, the best way to get stuff done is you gotta do it yourself, right? You gotta cut out honestly, like, you don't need mass light, they don't have anything. You don't need NEBRA, this is like, we got no idea, right? So it's like, what's your local garden setting? Ask every conversation. No, I have presentation. Yeah, well, I'm not exactly the looks, I decide. I would like get a life recently where it's out of the class and they give you like a month of training. Like when you training, I don't know. That's another issue. Well, I got in a little early today. Yup. I got a sick dog. You got a dog? Nope. Not exactly. There's too much maintenance. There's a lot of maintenance. Really? I'm sure I can make it work with some money, but I just do that.
officers, trainers, schools. It's not gonna get them consoles up, because so many will get you said, various levels of time. Yeah, so that barriers and so like you said, there's really you know, the guys in the streets and everybody else is present too, trying to reach out to like shots of course. Well, we don't have to think about that. Little program design is how you guys see and also who wants to be on the team practical. So that's where.
So I want to have more on. So this is one of those deals where in a certain sense, it's for like say years.
Right.
Really have somebody.
Yeah.
We have also
Hey, Colin?
Yo.
Call Alex, go and tell him to make sure that this is actually a member.
They are.
They are?
Where? Actually,
They must have just joined a few seconds ago. ERI, right?
yeah, you're right, they're probably not. But they were last year.
Yeah, because I called them, and this year I called them again.
Yeah.
Son, Chris, that's what I'm getting. I haven't heard from Chris, and he's running to the board, and he says, there's some help.
He can't vote for himself, I love
He's
it.
gotta do it, well, we should, let's join. Like,
Yeah.
Or 30.
And especially because they were members last year, like literally they,
No, I talked to
Yeah.
him at the race, I talked to Chris. Yeah.
this is the essence of the administration, right?
And like
You
nothing
just gotta get
happened.
somewhere to do it.
And even CC, I got a list of CCD, I called Megan, nothing from Tim Mitchell, nothing from Amos, nothing from the guys, nothing from the forest.
You haven't been out.
Yeah, Jim did, yeah, I sent him the text last week, he never responded, but.
He signed up anyway.
Good.
Voting
goes until the 30th, right?
Yep, till Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, that was the only thing I was gonna ask you.
Very good.
So the voting's still gonna be online, even though we.
Yeah,
met face.
yeah, so-
We're not gonna have the phone call, but we're just gonna.
Right, we're gonna vote digitally, like we always voted anyway, like it was, it's not like we could ever do a vote on a phone call.
Yeah.
Did you get an email from me this week? It's in your spam folder.
No, well, was it directed to me?
I mean, I sent it to everybody that was a member online.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Okay, yeah, with the link to.
I've been really swamped,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't say I read it.
No problem, just read it for Wednesday, and
So-
click the link.
You know, year after year after year, my interaction with my he's obsessed with prize.
It's the same theme.
He's obsessed with prize money. And my feeling is the exact opposite. It's like, I took a bracelet at 50 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the handful of guys who keep winning the prize money. They're the only ones who care. No one else cares.
No one's getting prize money or asking.
So for the Connecticut Masters, because I run the race so that it's you know, following USAC rules and I do this on that, but it's really Patrick's show. It's part of the, you know, the senior games.
Yep.
Cycling just one thing. And it's his dollars. So I got some shit last year for not having an equal women's prize. I said, well, you know, that was an oversight on my part. I just kind of cloned the flyer.
Right.
So I just, the flyer for Patrick, I said, across the board. We were only giving out prize money for the 40 plus and 50 plus men's crits anyways. And because it's the Masters games, you know, there's so many races because you have to have.
Right.
You have to have the 70s.
It's kind of a,
It's
kind of
a
a
lot of
unique event
money
anyway.
to start, it's a lot of money to start giving out prizes. So
Yeah.
I'm recommending. No problem.
Did you do that last year or this year?
Last year I forgot, I cloned the flyer from
So-
the year before and I had
So you're
prize money.
recommending it, but you haven't actually tested it yet.
Right, well, because it's not my race for the dollars, I sent the flyer to Patrick and said, you'll call. You know, you want to have prize money, but I'm suggesting you either have it, do something across the board, or you have none at all. You can't do this just money for the men's 40 and 50 and no money for anyone else.
Right,
So,
like,
and
you
for
really
Mystic
get
Bello, I made so much money last year. I took it in the shorts the year before that, but last year I made a ton of money. I got a huge turnout. Turns out just being on a Sunday made a massive
There's a
difference.
lot, right? There's everybody wants there to be one variable. And like, there's like a million.
Well, the year before, it poured rain.
Right.
It was a Saturday race.
How's your weather?
And I
How's
had
your
55
conflicts?
riders.
Yeah.
The next year, I thought I would get a ton of riders because I teamed up with Amos's road race. The vast majority of riders who came to my race on Sunday were not the ones who showed up for Amos's road
This
race.
is this year.
This was in 2018, yeah.
Yep.
They were people who had raced elsewhere all over like New Jersey. Said, you were the only race on a Sunday, so I came.
Right, so that's a,
So that was weird. So I'm gonna go for a Sunday again this year, but I'm for Mr. Bello, because I made so much money. I'm doing a prize list across the board, every single race. I just have a modest
even
prize
cat
list.
fives. One thing,
Cat 5, what did I do? I have it as a 4 or 5 race, so I include, because again, I try to be a stickler about making sure I follow the written rules.